Good evening, everybody. We are up to episode 47 of Untold Evidence. At 23:49 on the night of the 30th of March 1990, a NATO radar facility in Belgium detected an unknown target moving over the southeast suburbs of Brussels. Two F-16 fighters were scrambled from a nearby airbase. They achieved a radar lock from 12 kilometres away. The object accelerated from 280 kilometres per hour to 1800 kilometres per hour. It did it in less than a second. The lock broke. They achieved another. It broke again. Over the next hour, they tried 9 times. None of the pilots ever saw it. The Belgian UFO Wave began on the evening of the 29th of November 1989 in the small town of Eupen near the German border. 2 officers of the Belgian Gendarmerie, Heinrich Nicol and Hubert von Mentingi, were on patrol. When they observed the triangular object hovering low in the sky, it had bright lights at each corner, yet it made no sound. They then followed it for over 2 hours. By the end of that single night, more than 140 separate reports had been logged in eastern Belgium alone. By April 1990, an estimated 13,500 people would claim to have seen something similar. Witnesses were not limited to civilians. There were police officers, military personnel, and an army colonel named André Amon. The descriptions were unusually consistent: a large, dark, silent triangle, lights at the corners, sometimes a 4th light underneath, capable of hovering, then accelerating with no apparent transition. Over the next 5 months, thousands of reports would follow. This was the largest concentrated UFO wave in modern European history, and unlike most UFO waves, the Belgian government did not deny it was happening. The Belgian Air Force had been cooperating with the Belgian Society for the Study of Space Phenomena. Almost immediately, by 1990, that cooperation had produced standard procedure for verified sightings. So, when the Gendarmerie reported a triangular formation of lights moving towards the southeast suburbs of Brussels on the night of the 30th of March 1990, the Belgian Air Force did something it had never done before. In a response to a UFO call, it scrambled fighter jets. The events of that night, of the 30th to the 31st of March 1990, are documented in a formal Belgian Air Force report, authored by Major P. Lambrechts of the BAF General Staff. At 10 to 11, the supervisor at the Ground Control Reporting Centre received calls from a gendarmerie at Wave, describing 3 unusual lights forming on an equilateral triangle. At 23:49, the NATO Traffic Centre of Control confirmed an unknown target on its radar. 2 F-16 fighter Falcons were scrambled from that airbase. Over the next hour, the pilots attempted 9 separate interceptions. According to the Lambrechts report, they achieved 8 radar locks. The targets responded with what the report describes as, quote, maneuvers outside the performance envelope of any known aircraft, speeds from 280 kilometers per hour to 1800 kilometers per hour in less than a second. Let that just sit. This acceleration of nearly 1500 kilometers an hour is done within a second. Altitude shifts from 3 kilometers to 1.7 kilometers, and then a complete stop. 1-track descent, the objects dropped approximately 10,000 feet to 500 feet in 5 seconds. The pilots achieved repeated radar locks. The objects, or whatever was producing the radar return, broke each one. There were no sonic booms, there was no infrared signals, and critically, neither pilots ever saw anything visually. The chase ended with the contact disappeared from radar over the suburbs of Brussels. Fast forward 4 months, onto the 11th of July 1990. The Belgian Air Force did something that has no clear precedent in the history of UFO investigations. it held a public press conference in the NATO headquarters in Avia, Brussels. Major General Wilfred de Brouwer, the Belgian Air Force Chiefs of Operations, presented declassified radar data, side-by-side cockpit recordings, and the conclusion that during the 30th to the 31st of March incidents, 2 military aircrafts had encountered radar contacts that defied any known aerodynamic limits. He acknowledged that the pilots had not visually confirmed the target. He acknowledged that no sonic boom had been heard. But he also acknowledged that there were 8 radar contacts from multiple independent sensor sources. The Belgian Air Force, on the public record, did not say that aliens had visited Belgium, but it did say on the public record that something had been seen on radar that should have not been on the radar, and it could not, with the data available, explain it. Then came the wave's defenders prefer not to mention. In April 1990, a young Belgian factory worker named Petit-Rechain released what would become known as the Petit-Rechain photograph, a black triangular craft with 3 glowing lights, photographed at night near the village of Petit-Rechain. For 21 years, this single photo stood as the most widely reproduced visual evidence of the entire Belgian wave. It was examined by NASA, by the French National Centre for Scientific Research, by the Belgian Royal Military Academy. None of them found any obvious signs of fakery. In July 2011, Maréchal told Belgian television RTL that the photograph was a hoax. He had built a triangle from polystyrene, painted it, suspended it from a wire in front of a black background, and photographed it to play a joke on some of his workmates. However, there's more. Skeptic Brian Dunning's analysis of the F-16 radar logs notes that the recorded contacts behaved in ways characteristic of false radar returns rather than physical objects, appearing, disappearing, moving up and down too quickly, even on occasion going underground. The Belgian Air Force itself in later statements acknowledged that, quote, specific weather conditions may have caused electromagnetic interference and false returns on the radar screen. And a final detail. Despite an estimated 13,500 witnesses across 5 months in the era of widespread film cameras, only 1 photograph was ever documented, and that one, by all accounts, is now deemed as a hoax. What is documented is the Lambrechts reports, the radar tapes, the de Brouwer press conference, and a Belgian Air Force that, for one moment in 1990, treated the question of unidentified aerial phenomena seriously enough to put a Major General in front of a microphone at NATO. What is not documented is what was actually on the radar. The 30th to the 33rd of March incident has to this day never been officially explained. The Petit-Rechain photo is a confirmed hoax. The witnesses remain, and the question of whether 13,500 people can be psychologically primed by 5 months of media coverage to do the same thing within the night sky, or whatever something was actually there, remains open. Thank you all for listening. This has been Untold Evidence. Any comment, question or theories, please drop in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.